Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of the football betting series here on YouTube, Premier League edition. After a pretty torrid time in December, we had a fantastic weekend to round off the year. We went 5-0, so that brings our December record up to a respectable 24 wins, 11 losses and 4 pushes for a total monthly profit of £60.48. When we add that to the series record, we're standing at 97 wins, 39 losses with 18 pushes and a series profit of £557.21. I've got 4 picks in today's episode, so if you think I'm talking some sense, please drop a like down below and subscribe to the channel for more content. Without further ado, let's get into it. Our first pick sees 11th place Tottenham Hotspurs playing host to 5th place Newcastle. And Spurs, they were denied 3 points late on in their game against Wolves, after Hwang opened the scoring for the visitors after just 10 minutes. Bentancur and Johnson managed to get the Spurs ahead before the half-time interval, and after then perhaps a little bit of complacency crept in there for the North London side. Wolves took more shots in the second half and as they searched for an equaliser, and Spurs failed to force a single save from Sarr in the second period. So it was perhaps no shock when Larson scored 3 minutes from time and ultimately for a share of the points with a final score ending 2-2. In terms of form, it's a pretty torrid time for Spurs right now. 1 win in their last 7 Premier League matches, and that was against Southampton. And Newcastle, they won their last game 2-0 away from home at Old Trafford against Manchester United. Isak got the Magpies off to a fantastic start, opening the scoring after just 4 minutes, with Joe Linton doubling the lead just before the 20-minute mark. And from there, the two never really looked back, cruising on to win in convincing style. When we look at the statistics, although Manchester United created 10 goal-scoring opportunities, these weren't very high-value efforts, combining for just 0.9 xG, compared to Newcastle, who dominated on every major win predictor statistic. In terms of form, that means it's now 4 wins in a row for Newcastle, and Eddie Howe has got them playing some good football, turning to form as they're just 3 points away from those Champions League spots now. When we look at the head-to-head record, the last game was played between these two sides on Matchday 3 back in September. Harvey Barnes opened the scoring towards the end of the first half, with Tottenham Hotspurs drawing level thanks to Dan Burns' own goal. It was then Isak who retook the lead for the Magpies 10 minutes from time to see Newcastle claim a 2-1 win. And that win made it back-to-back wins for Newcastle over Spurs. They've also won 4 of the last 5 Premier League encounters. My prediction for today's game is that Newcastle have the better head-to-head record, but have been slightly inconsistent on the road this year. Similarly, Spurs have struggled to put together a real run of form, so it's hard to tip a side here, but I am looking at goals. Spurs have seen over 2.5 goals in 4 of their last 5 games and in 8 of their last 9 matches at home. Whereas Newcastle, they've seen over 2.5 goals in 6 of their last 7 matches and in 4 of their last 6 away games. When we look at the head-to-head record, over 2.5 goals was hit in each of the last 8 encounters, including each of the last 3 at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Therefore, we're looking at over 2.5 goals for a full stake here in bet number 1. Our second selection sees 15th place Crystal Palace playing host to 4th place Chelsea. And Crystal Palace, they came back from behind to pick up a win against Southampton in their last game. Tyler Dibling opened the scoring to give the Saints some hope before Chalobah scored from a corner to level the scores up at half-time. Shortly after the break, in the 52nd minute, Eze hammered a shot past Ramsdale to put the Eagles ahead, and from then on they held on. Numbers-wise, this was the correct result. As we look at the XG, this does indicate on the balance of chances created, a 2-1 scoreline was the most likely outcome. In terms of form, this result did break a 3-game winless streak for the Eagles, and Crystal Palace have now put themselves 5 points clear of the relegation zone as we reach the halfway mark in the season. They host the Chelsea side, who are coming off a 2-0 away defeat at Ipswich Town. Despite dominating the ball and a lot of the chances, it was Ipswich Town that managed to find the breakthrough 12 minutes into the game thanks to Liam Delap's penalty. Despite taking 10 shots in the first half, Chelsea were unable to make the breakthrough, and then shortly after the second half whistle was blown, in the 53rd minute, Omari Hutchinson doubled the lead for Ipswich Town, and from there on, Chelsea just couldn't create enough to find a way back into the game. Despite holding 77% of the ball and creating 2 big chances from 10 shots taken, Ipswich Town managed to hold out for a well-earned win. In terms of form, this does mean that Chelsea have had back-to-back defeats in the Premier League, with no win in 3 since the 0-0 draw to Everton. It's been a rocky end to the year following a strong performance of 8 wins on the bounce at the start of the month. When we look at the head-to-head record, the reverse fixture saw Palace earn a draw at Stamford Bridge. Jackson opened the scoring after 25 minutes before Eze brought the game back to level pegging. 1-1 the final score, but this did really hide just how dominant Chelsea were in the match. Looking at the numbers, they were the dominant force, generating 5 big chances to Palace's 0, and an XG which was 4 times greater than their visitors. That result did break a run of 14 consecutive victories for Chelsea over Crystal Palace, and that was a run dating back to October of 2017. My prediction for today's game is that whilst both sides have faltered towards the end of the year, it is Chelsea that are the better squad man for man, and they will look to avenge the points they dropped back in September. Coming off the back of 3 games without a win, I think it's an excellent spot to take Chelsea to pick up the win for a full stake in bet number 2. Our third selection sees 6th place Manchester City playing host to 13th place West Ham. Manchester City returned to winning ways in their last match against Leicester. 2 goals from Sarvinho and Haaland broke City's duck, and they secured 3 points as they hope to keep pace with the top 4 sides. Numbers-wise, the scoreline does flatter Manchester City a tad. Although Pep's side took more shots, it was the Foxes who created more chances and generated a slightly higher XG than the visitors. Based on these numbers, perhaps City were fortunate to keep a clean sheet in this game, but nevertheless, they have managed to win, and they're going to hope that'll keep on. Nevertheless, they did manage to win, and in terms of form, that's now 2 wins in the last 14 games, as they look to recover from a really poor spell to end 2024. They play a West Ham side who were dissected by a clinical Liverpool side. The only real positive for the Irons was Areola's 8 saves kept the score down, but outside of this it was a pretty disastrous performance. West Ham gave up 9 big chances and an XG of more than 3 as Liverpool cruised to a 5-0 win at the London Stadium. In terms of form, that loss did end a run of 4 games unbeaten for West Ham, and things won't get too much easier against Manchester City here. In terms of the head-to-head record, City won the reverse fixture by 3 goals to 1, and Erling Haaland's hat-trick was the difference between the sides in a thoroughly dominant display for the reigning champions. City had more than twice the efforts on goal, created 5 times the amount of chances, and they had an XG of more than 3. That particular win made it 3 3-1 wins for the citizens in a row, so if you're looking for a correct score prediction, perhaps go with 3-1. Additionally, Manchester City have won each of the last 5 encounters, and they are unbeaten in the last 18 Premier League meetings between these sides. My prediction for today's game is that backing Manchester City has been a bit of a fool's errand in December. But with a new month comes a fresh start for Guardiola's men. Form is temporary, whereas class is permanent, and Manchester City have an excellent record against the Hammers. So I'm going to back Manchester City for a full stake here in bet number 3. Our fourth and final selection in today's episode sees top of the league Liverpool playing host to 14th place Manchester United. And Liverpool battered West Ham in their last match. Mo Salah ran the show once again, scoring once and assisting twice in a 5-0 win for the Reds. In terms of form, this does mean it's 3 wins on the bounce, and Liverpool are unbeaten in their last 23 games across all competitions. They host a Manchester United side who are coming off a 2-0 loss at home against Newcastle. Goals from Isak and Joelinton put the game beyond all doubt after just 20 minutes, and Manchester United, despite being at home, only managed to create 0.9 XG. In terms of form, that does mean it's 4 losses in a row across all competitions. And although they've had some promising moments under Amorim, Manchester United do appear to be struggling to find a consistent way of playing that's going to generate results. They find themselves a worrying 7 points above the relegation zone at the halfway point of this season. When we look at the head-to-head records, Liverpool won the match earlier in the season. Salah's goal and a Diaz double saw Liverpool run out 3-0 winners. When we look at the stats, Liverpool did edge the game, but perhaps 3-0 is a tad harsh on Manchester United. They did create enough to score at least 1 goal. That result broke a 2-game draw streak between the two sides, and it did extend Liverpool's unbeaten run over the Red Devils to 4 in a row. My prediction for today's game is that Liverpool are in imperious form and have no signs of slowing down, and this is in stark comparison to a Manchester United side who, in all likelihood, will spend the rest of the season adapting to Amorim's style of play. I think it's an open and shut case for this one for Liverpool to pick up a win at Anfield, and I'm going to back that for a full stake in the final bet of the episode. So there we have it, 4 picks in today's episode to start off the new year. Starting off with Spurs versus Newcastle, we're taking over 2.5 goals, odds of 1.37, a £40 stake to return £14.80. Also on the Saturday, we have Crystal Palace against Chelsea. We're going to be backing the away side, odds of around 9 to 10, a full stake of £40 to return £36.40. Wrapping things up on the Saturday, we have Manchester City versus West Ham. We're going to back the Citizens at odds of around 1 to 3, a £40 full stake to return £13.20. And the biggest game of the weekend is probably Liverpool versus Manchester United. We're going to be backing Liverpool to pick up the win at odds of 1.35. A £40 full stake to return 14 exactly. So across the weekend, we're going to be risking £160 to hopefully pick up as much as £78.40. Will we do so? Well, there's only one way to find out, and that's to tune into next episode. But if you have made it to this point in the video, please drop a like down below and subscribe to the channel for more content. And as always, have yourself a lovely day.